Not that I don't want to enjoy every day. Every day. This is the day the Lord hath made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. Okay, I'm not finding my friend Debbie. We were going to try to add her one more time. No, now her name's not even showing up. So, well, we'll just get started then. Good thing I read this morning. I didn't just count on Debbie carrying the load this morning. Hi, Nancy. Good morning, everybody. Big hugs back to you, Eileen. We love your hugs. I'm Elizabeth Sharon Ann, and this is our one-year daily Bible study. Hi, Regina. Good to see you, lady. Golly, I love everybody coming on with us. Thank you guys for being patient as we tried to add Debbie Nolan on today. February the 9th, reading Exodus chapters 29 and 30 today. Hi, Shirley. We do the one-year Bible. We read all the way through on the Elizabeth Sharon Ann page. So you're welcome to friend me on my personal page, Elizabeth Inman, but the Elizabeth Sharon Ann page is the one where we do the one-year Bible. Hi, Julie. Sure have been praying for your family, Julie. Our family. It's not just your family, it's our family. Hi, Cindy. We're reading about Aaron. So yesterday, we started the process, reading through the process of Aaron being set aside as the royal priest. I brought out scriptures yesterday and read a couple to us about how we are referred to as royal priests now, that we are priests. I mentioned yesterday that as we read these scriptures about Aaron's ordination, about putting ourselves in those positions to make this applicable to today, how that impacts us today. Today, in today's reading, they start the sacrifices, and I did a little bit of research today, and I talk a lot about how we read the book physically in the beginning. At least for me, my experience was, back 20 years ago when I first started doing this, I would read these and it was hard. I'm just telling you, it was like, why do I have to read about this ram and this bull? And why does he have to put his right hand on the horn? And why do we put blood with our thumb on the right earlobe? And it was just hard. It was hard reading. I'm just going to tell you, if you're at that state, I believe that you just have to push through that. I think it's very much like getting on a treadmill and being faithful to that treadmill, that if you stay on that treadmill for a full year, you won't be the same at the end of that year. I believe if you stay faithful and you push through reading this book, that you won't be the same at the end of that year. The Bible tells us, it's written down for us so that we can read it, that this word never returns void. So I just want to remind you that even when you're reading and you're going, what does this mean? How does this, I didn't get anything out of this today, Elizabeth. I don't know how this applies to my life today. I'm telling you that there is a work being done every single time you read this word. The Bible is referred to as the seed of God. It's referred to as manna. Manna is referred to as seed. And every time we take in these words into, the eyes are the window of the soul. Every time we take in these words, there is a change that's taking place. There is a seed that's being planted, and we're planting it into the soil of our hearts. And then the soil is what nurtures and changes the seed. The seed in and of itself has no power. When a seed is just laying here on the table, it does nothing. In fact, it'll end up dying after a great length of time. It doesn't die immediately. That's a whole nother sermon I could go, how long a seed can remain dormant and then still produce life. But anyway, so reading it physically, is important. And then even reading it and meditating on it and researching and understanding the significance of what we're reading helps us in our stages. And when we do those things, we're on our way to seeing, and I'm talking spiritually seeing the significance of these scriptures to us in our own life today. So with that, I did a little bit of research this morning, not just a whole bunch, but I did do a little bit. I want to read just a few words for you, because I'm not going to go through the sacrifices. You can read those for yourself, but just to bring some meaning to some things. You know, it starts right off that Aaron and his sons was to take a young bull and 2 rams, of course, with no defects. The ram represents a royalty, a higher power. Ultimately, it represents sacrifice. The bull represents also sacrifice, but it also represents a desire for a spiritual life. It was signifying that they were desiring a spiritual life that allows man to triumph over animal passions and to obtain peace. All of a sudden, why we have a bull and a ram takes on new meaning, doesn't it, when we understand these things? Then it said that they laid hands on it. What is the laying on of hands? Now, I could have gone my entire time this morning just talking about laying on of hands, but it shows, but in this particular case, I want to talk about this particular case. But if you think about it, we lay hands on people to pray for them as well, don't we? And the laying on of hands shows an identification of the offerer with the sacrifice. So in today's reading, they laid their hands on the horn of the ram. Laying hands on showed an identification of the person making the sacrifice with that lamb who was the offering. But it does the same thing when we lay hands on somebody to pray. See how we apply it to today? When we find these things out, we can apply it to our life today. We lay hands on, and when we lay hands on, it's an identification with the person that we're praying for. It goes deeper than that, but I'm going to stop with that. It goes much deeper, but because of time, I'm going to stop with that. So the laying on of hands shows identification of the offerer with the sacrifices. And then why was it significant that it was the right hand? Because the right hand represents the deity. It represents authority. It represents the blessings, the power, the strength, the right hand. And then, oh goodness, I forgot to write down about the earlobe. It won't be the only time we talk about the earlobe, so I'll come back to that. But I had a very strong curiosity today about the thigh, because we read about Jacob. Jacob was Joseph's father, correct? I'm correct with that. I had to think that through. When Jacob was on his deathbed and he was offering the blessings, he had his son Joseph place his hand under his right thigh. And then here we are in these sacrifices reading about verse 27, set aside the portions of the ordination ram that belongs to Aaron and his sons. This includes the breast and the thigh that were lifted up before the Lord as a special offering. And I wanted to know what the thigh meant. The thigh signifies the authority to transfer an oath to another. Then all of a sudden it made sense why Jacob had Joshua place his hand under his right thigh. The authority, we understand what right hand, right means deity, authority, blessings, power, strength. The thigh is the authority to transfer an oath to another, to give one strength and enduring enduring of the oath from one generation to another generation. Wow, I mean, you see how things change when you do understand the meaning of that. Jacob was transferring his strength to his son Joseph, but he was also transferring an oath from himself to his son, and he was transferring the endurance of that oath from one generation represented by Jacob to another generation represented by Joseph. And it just brings new significance. And of course, we're in Exodus. We're ending the book of Exodus, getting ready to go into Leviticus. And Leviticus is full of the traditions of the sacrifices. I mean, I tell the story every time I go through this about the struggle I had getting through the book of Leviticus and making it relevant to today. But I just want to highlight, as I finish up about the Old Covenant reading today, about how when they burned the fat, it was to be a pleasing aroma to the Lord. Pleasing aroma to the Lord. And I can't help but read these now that I don't think about how when we submit to God, we're making ourselves a living sacrifice. And of course, we know the scripture that tells us to make ourselves a living sacrifice to God. So all of a sudden, all these things we're reading about becomes very significant to us when we realize that we make ourselves a living sacrifice unto God. All of these things become very significant. And then even as we are resurrected with him, which is what our baptism represents, we die to self. The going under the water represents that we're dying to self. We identify with Christ in his death when we buried him in the tomb. And then we identify when we come up out of the water with Christ when he was raised from the dead. And then we set about and we say, I'm a dead person. I died to myself. I am only who and what you say I am. And we set about to do what he tells us to do. We reach that place where I don't want to speak one word unless it's what you tell me to speak. And I don't want to do one thing unless it's what you tell me to do. And so from that point forward, my flesh may desire that I eat for the next 3 days. But spiritually, I believe I'm supposed to fast for 3 days, not to get God to do something. God's already done everything God's going to do for us, but to get my flesh to submit into that die to self, to get my flesh out of the way so that I'm not being carnal. So when we do that fasting, get my words right here, my fasting becomes a sacrifice. Then all of a sudden, does the sacrifice mean anything? Because I'm under new covenant. I don't have to sacrifice anything. And I don't. It's not works mentality. We're reading about all of the works that it required to uphold those 1,613 laws that was in place back then, as Nancy put in the comments. It was all works. Now it's not works. Now it's the mercy of God that's a free gift. It's the grace of God that is a free gift from God. If I don't do another single solitary thing, God's already done everything for me. He sent his son. He died for me. He was the ultimate sacrifice for me. But now as I set about to do the work God created us for, because he created all of us on purpose for a purpose. If that wasn't the case, the moment I got saved, he just whisked me away to heaven. He leaves us here because there's work that was set aside, the Bible tells us, specifically for Montana to do, specifically for Donna to do, specifically for Nancy and Debbie to do, and Elizabeth and Tom. There's work set aside for us to do. And when we set about the Lord's work, instead of doing what I want to do, what my flesh wants to do, then it's a sacrifice. But the key is our sacrifice a pleasing aroma? I mean, the Bible's very specific about our fasts. If I go around telling everybody I'm fasting, it's not a pleasing aroma to the Lord. If I pray out loud, see, even taking the time to pray is a form of a sacrifice. And when I pray out loud on the street corner so everybody can hear and they can boast about my great prayers, that's not a pleasing aroma to the Lord. And anything that I do, if I wake up this morning and I say in my prayer closet, okay, Lord, I'm yours. Do with me what you want to do today. And then I walk out here with a bad attitude and I bite everybody's heads off, or people's got to walk on eggshells to be around me. That's not a pleasing sacrifice to the Lord. So anyway, that pleasing aroma to the Lord has changed my life and it stays with me. I think about it all the time. Are my words a pleasing aroma to the Lord? Is what I do today a pleasing aroma is my rest? I mean, he's got me, man, is he talking to me about rest being worship for him. My rest should be a pleasing aroma to him. And it goes on and on and on. Matthew 26. So in case you think that there's nothing to be had with all the sacrifices that we're not required to make today, and the rams and the bulls and the blood on the altar, and there's so much more. I could have gone on and on and on and on. In fact, 2 years ago, I looked up what the white linen meant. And the white linen meant sinless, no fault, righteousness, purity. There was a time back in my younger days when the white gown for a wedding meant those very things: sinless, righteous, purity. The white wedding gown meant purity. And second marriages and third marriages, never, ever. It was scandalous for a woman to consider wearing a white dress. Even a white casual dress was scandalous to be worn in a wedding ceremony for a second or third or fourth marriage. It just was not done because it represented purity on a wedding day. Even a woman who'd never been married before, if she was not a virgin, it was scandalous to wear a white dress. Now we're certainly operating in the mercy and grace of God in that's not the case anymore, but just the significance of the color and what it means, and then allowing the significance of what it means to apply to us today is what I'm about. I mean, I want this book. Every time I open it, I tell God, what do you have for me, Elizabeth, today, February the 9th of 2022. I mean, life's hard, guys. We're still in a third year of a pandemic. We've lost loved ones. Death has always been a part of life. I mean, we come from the womb living for the day when this body will fade away and we'll be in heaven. We live for the day. Death has always been a part of life. But it definitely got accelerated with the pandemic. And then there's the fallout from that. The economy, inflation, interest rates that makes life hard, jobs, the lack of jobs, or the lack of workers. I mean, I haven't ever lived at a time in my life when we couldn't fill the jobs, that there's more jobs than people willing to work. I mean, it's a unique period of time for me in my lifetime. Life's hard. I mean, relationships. Oh my goodness. If there's anything that will wreck us, let a mama and her children get into a fight. Let a mama and her adult kids get into an argument. Talk about life getting hard. Lose a good friend. Somebody gets offended. Somebody gets their feelings hurt. I mean, that's the world we live in. We should be living unoffendable. I don't want to walk an offense. I've done that in my life. It's miserable. It's miserable to walk in offense. It's miserable for you to walk in unforgiveness. It's miserable. So again, how do I live a life unoffendable in this day and age when they'll turn on you at the drop of a hat? I mean, they'll turn on you. I said it, at the drop of a hat. How do you live unoffendable in today's world? Well, this book is how you do that. You learn through reading and getting his word. Hide this word in my heart so that I can walk unoffendable. How can I walk in pure peace? How can I not just, there was a time in my life when my emotions would go up and then they'd come down, and then they'd go up, and I was on a high and everything was good, and then the other shoe would fall. And there was a time in my life when I looked for the other shoe to fall. I don't look for the other shoe to fall anymore. And I don't live my life up and down anymore. I don't have it all mastered by any stretch of the imagination, but my emotions are so much smoother now. So much smoother now. When I acknowledge the Christ that's in me, that when I read these scriptures that we just read the other day that says when they reject me, they're rejecting him. I mean, I used to be able to get my feelings hurt if I walked in, you just didn't even say hello to me. Oh my gosh, living this way is so much better. That if you don't ever speak to me ever again, I can still love you. The way I think towards you doesn't change based on the way you treat me. That is such a better place to live. It makes this hard life not quite so hard. And that, we're reading about that in Matthew, Judas. I mean, it's not a coincidence. We read about some of the very first sacrifices, at least the formal tradition of those sacrifices today, and move right into the betrayal of Jesus by his close disciple, Judas. I mean, it's a picture of our life with relationships. Sometimes we think people betray us when they didn't even intend to betray us, but we live in betrayal because we took it as betrayal. I mean, this spirit of rejection that gets on us, I mean, you guys, every one of us should examine ourselves. How are we living our life feeling rejected? Well, they don't spend enough time with me. Well, they never call me. Well, and this one really gets me, probably just because of where I'm at in my life. I have a lot of people I associate with, and I love it. It's energy for me. It's why I love my interactions with people, and I do the very best I can to stay connected with as many people as I possibly can. And somebody sends a text right in the middle of a day when I've got 6 telecons I have to be on, or I'm meeting with 6 clients in a row. And so in between, of course, I'm going to check my phone. And if I happen to check my text messages and click on one, it's no longer highlighted black. And so I go through my next 3 meetings. And then when at the end of the day, when I've probably averaged, I don't know what I average. At one time I'd counted about 40 text messages in a day. It's probably somewhere around there. And at the end of the day, when I pick that phone back up, if it's not highlighted black, then I assume I've dealt with it. And so I don't answer somebody. And then 2 days later, I get, what's wrong with you? How come you won't talk to me? Why didn't you answer my text? And it's like, whoa. Whoa, if I didn't answer your text, please just text me again. You see what I'm saying? I mean, I'm saying this because I'm not the only one that deals with this. We're all busy. I mean, us humans have this ability that we get 24 hours in a day, and we're going to pack as much into that 24 hours as we possibly can. And if somebody doesn't answer our text message, we're offended. We're upset, or we assume they're offended. And then that causes us trouble. Really? Judas betrayed Jesus with a kiss. And there was never a time that Jesus didn't love him. Unoffendable. Unoffendable. That's what I get out of today's reading. Unoffendable. Wow. Don't live by getting my feelings hurt. Don't live by moods and mood swings. I want the people that are around me to see me the same, no matter what. I came back from that incredible mission trip this past weekend. And, it started off that planes were canceled, flights were canceled. We rented a car from Phoenix, drove it into Las Vegas, got in at 4:30, what would be my Central Standard Time in the morning, got up. We had appointments the next day. More physical activity than this old gal usually does, because I'm sitting in front of a computer in front of people all day long. Walked our tail off, let me tell you, at least mine. Physically tired, not much sleep, and then canceled flights and delayed flights, getting in way later than we thought, but praise God, I got in. And I slept in my own bed Sunday night, and it was very, very nice. But when I woke up on Monday morning, I could tell it was one of those days. I could feel the tiredness in my bones. And so I had a very intense day Monday. Had appointments, I had meetings, I've got people that are around me every day. And you know what? These people that are around me every day love me, and they serve me, and they would do anything for me. The last thing in the world they needed from me Monday is for me to be hateful and grumpy because I chose to take a mission trip and came back tired. I mean, so, at the point when I thought that perhaps the way I responded might not be my normal way of responding, I just openly said it. Hey guys, I know physically I'm a little tired, probably emotionally a little tired. Please don't read anything into my tone of voice, my body language, and just saying it releases them then of trying to figure out what might be wrong with Elizabeth. You understand what I'm saying? It's the simple little things we can do. And I hope, they're at the table with me. I hope that I maintained a semblance of stability and consistency. I hope that I did. I hope that I smiled throughout the day. I hope that I told people I appreciated them and made them feel appreciated. I hope even the fact that I told them I was tired and not meaning to respond in a negative way showed them that I value them. To live that way, out of the swings of up and down. Judas was living in swings of up and down, I'll tell you. Put me in charge of the money, and he steals the money. I don't have enough, so let me go sell Jesus for 30 pieces of silver. I don't want to live my life that way. And I can't imagine my Savior telling me it would have been better if you weren't even born. So that's what I got out of today's reading. I got a lot out of today's. I listened to it several times. I read it. I looked things up today. I want to hide this word in my heart. The more of this word I get in my heart, the more it's confirming what he's already telling me. And I'll repeat over and over again, this is his love letter to us. He loved us so much that he wrote down what he's been saying to us so that we could get it, so we could taste of his flesh. We could bite of his flesh and taste of his blood, and it would go into us because it's the word. In the beginning was the word, and the word was with God, and the word is God. And when I take this in and I hide it in my heart, then my emotions stabilize, the demons stay away from me, the issues get resolved in my life, and I have hope. And by reading this every day, something that's been a consistent pattern for me for probably the last 10 years, is I tell myself all the time, the best is yet to come. The best is yet to come. That's hope in action. And you know what? I live a very blessed life. I'm very blessed. Do I have heartache? You bet. I lost somebody that impacted my family just in the last couple of weeks that was hard. It's hard to see your kids hurt. It's hard to see your kids hurt. Bad things happen. And yet I see my life as a blessed life. Blessed, I'm living the dream. And yet what lives inside of me is the best is yet to come. The best is yet to come. To be absent from the body is to be present with the Lord. I have nothing to fear from death. I'm getting older. I'm 62. I'm going to be 63 this year. How did that happen? I still feel like I'm in my 20s. I feel like I could go do a cartwheel over there. That would be a funny thing to see. Let me just tell you. If I feel like I could, in my mind I could, I can see me doing it. And yet the best is yet to come. The best is yet to come, you guys. This is a wonderful Wednesday. Every morning, my daughter sends me a text and says, "It's a wonderful Wednesday, Mom. I hope you have a great day. It's Thankful Thursday, Mom. I'm thankful for you. It's a fabulous Friday, Mom." Every day I get that text from my daughter. If we wake up every day believing it's going to be a super Saturday, oh, it's a sweet, sweet Sunday. It's going to be a magnificent Monday. I don't have to dread Mondays. I stopped dreading Mondays several years ago when God showed me that I had a mindset about Mondays. That's when he gave me the words for every day of the week. Magnificent Monday, terrific Tuesday, wonderful Wednesday, thankful Thursday. Fabulous Friday, super Saturday, and sweet, sweet Sunday. I have a wonderful Wednesday to look forward to today. How about you? It's a wonderful Wednesday. Does that mean that everything's good in the world? No, 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 no. But everything is as it should be this very moment in my life. Not because everything's perfect with all my kids, not because I have all the money in my checkbook that I would like to have, not because I'm physically even where I need to be. Everything is as it should be right now, this very moment, because I belong to him and he is mine. And that's enough for me.